now is Nathan Hultman, Director of the Center for Global Sustainability at the University of Maryland. So climate change is putting pressure on our ability to feed ourselves now. Are we getting close to a breaking point?
Well, it is true that a report, not only this report, but a report late last year indicated that we are in fact at a moment where within the next 5 to 10 years, we have to take significant steps to take the opportunities that we have today and implement them so that we don't get to those tipping points that this report is actually calling out.
Now, the Trump administration doesn't accept that human activity contributes to climate change. Do you think anything in this report will be taken seriously by this administration?
That's not clear that they will do anything significant in response to this report, but that doesn't mean that there can't be action that happens in this country and countries around the world. A lot of the actions that are called for in this report have to do with the use of our lands, which often happen at the state, local, regional level in cities and with specific farmers. And there's also choices that we make, as your report pointed out, as consumers that can also affect the outcome.
Now, Americans do like to eat their meat. How do you think this suggestion that perhaps we could eat less meat and therefore help the climate, how do you think that will go down here?
Well, I think that what we want to do is look at it in the broad context of the report. The report frames out a couple of ways that we can address this food and climate issue. One of the ways is to look at our food systems as a whole. Eating meat is one of the elements of our food systems. Reducing food waste and loss is another element of the food system. And it is actually, in many cases, people might want to look at their choices in their diets and think, maybe I could eat one less meat meal a week. It doesn't have to be all or nothing.
But when it comes to the idea of reducing food waste, we waste 1/3 of our food. And of course, a lot of that waste happens here in the US, and that reduces more damaging gases into the environment. What could we do about that here in America?
Well, there are a lot of things that can be done, not only in the food waste question, but also more broadly about this land use question, which is pointed out by this report. On the food waste, I mean, there's a number of things that can be done across the different kinds of countries that are working on food waste issues. And so maybe it's food chain, sort of cold chain issues in developing countries. Maybe here it's about reducing food waste in services industries, right? There's many options that can be taken.
And when it comes to migration, we should expect more of it as people flee failing crops.
Yeah, this report does say very explicitly that we are already seeing impacts on food security even today, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, but in many parts of the world. What that means is that we do have to think very seriously as a security issue, but as a human welfare issue, to make sure that as we're looking at solutions to climate change, we don't neglect that very important element of food availability and the potential to add additional stress into migration patterns.
Nathan Hultman, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Now, US immigration officials say they've released roughly 300 people who were arrested during a massive raid in Mississippi on Wednesday. Nearly 700 workers employed at food processing plants were arrested for not having the right documents to be here in the US. But stories of children being separated